Oh, fuck. Ohio gozaimasu, pussies. It's time for your quarterly cock inspection. I mean, seasonal roundup. Pretty hit or miss this season. There were a lot of hits. There were a few misses. I mean, basically, I'll just give you the rundown and my thoughts about it. There'll still be some good bits, I hope. But yeah, let's get the ball rolling. So let's start off with RWBY Ice Queendom. So I caught up with RWBY a little earlier this year. I caught up to Volume 8. And when I heard there was going to be an anime, I was like, oh, this is adorable. Because, like, oh, it's a 2D RWBY anime. It's a new experience. The Japanese voice actors are, of course, they're delightful. And the visuals are unbelievable in this show. Really, really good. Like, they're not Demon Slayer level, but man, they really stand on their own. And they, like, make the show what it is. It's really, really solid. The story was a bit all over the place. It was nice to go back to the beginning of RWBY, right? Because it's been a while since I've been at where they were, where, you know, our four girls were at the very beginning, right? It's been a while since my mind's been there. So it was nice to jump back to that point. And the nice thing about it is Weiss definitely, out of the four main girls, she has the most, like, extreme point of view coming into Beacon, right? She has, like, the most biased, the most heavily influenced by others' point of view. So it makes sense that she was the one whose dream got all distorted and fucked up. That makes sense. It was nice to take a deeper look at, like, what Weiss and Blake's perceptions were of the Schnee Dust Company versus the White Fang, that kind of thing. A lot of those themes that it carried along with it were really good. And even some of the battle sequences towards the end, and even in, like, the first half, were really solid. It did slow down around the middle, as many shows do. Where they had to, like, jump back and forth between Weiss's dream, like, in and out, where they're like, ah, shit, we fucked up, we gotta get out of here. And, but that, I mean, other than that, I thought it was really fun. Again, a different RWBY experience, and the 2D style is really adorable. Again, a lot of the fight sequences are really, really good. And, I mean, you know, that's a RWBY staple, so they've gotta be, right? They've gotta live up to it. But yeah, the story, I'm not gonna claim to understand the whole thing. I don't really feel like I need to. I don't really want to. It just kind of is what it is, right? Like, it's not gonna blow your mind or anything. But I did think it was cute. And it's just nice. Like, RWBY has a really nice cast of characters that I just like seeing do what it is they do, right? And the inclusion of John and his interactions with Dream Pira and the little Weiss is very, very wholesome and sweet. And a lot of just the random shit was kind of funny or weird. Sometimes both. Like, I really thought it was cute. I thought it was very adorable. And a lot of the things that it did with, like, how it played with the RWBY universe was pretty clever. Like, not anything groundbreaking. You know, I'm looking forward to Volume 9 more than I was looking forward to this. But it was a very fun spin-off. So if you like RWBY, you're almost certainly going to like Ice Queendom. The dub is coming out, so if you're used to the English voices, the dub is well on its way. But I do recommend the Japanese voices just for a change of pace, because I think they did a great job. Next up, You've Got No Da! Call of the Night. This one was okay. I didn't really like it. I did not like it. I did like it. It has really good vibes, right? Like, the whole thing. I think that's what seemed to be the consensus going into it, right? Like, you have the vibes of the nighttime in the city, right? Where you got the street lights and the purple and blue lights and the whole 9 yards, and these weird jazz guys fucking screaming in the background. Like, the nighttime vibes, you know how it is. And what I will give it is that the vampire system that it uses throughout is pretty well thought out. Certainly more thorough than I was expecting. And the whole, like, oh, there's a boss vampire girl that Nazuna kind of broke away from at some point, but there's also vampires under her that, like, kind of want to play with Ko a little bit just because they think it's funny. Like, it's more than I was expecting. I was expecting just Nazuna to just be there the entire time, and they're not really build on that. And even the introduction of the detective lady towards the end, where she was like, yeah, I fucking hate vampires, so if you're gonna be a vampire, I'll fucking kill you. it adds to the world building. So the whole thing had really solid world building, I thought. And even the characters, it seems to be kind of one of those more postmodern shows almost, where the whole, like, a lot of the characters are like so, like, not quite in Chainsaw Man style, but, you know, like, they're just so, like, detached from everything, right? Like, it seems like what Gen Z is a lot, and people are kind of like using characters to show that in kind of extreme ways, and it feels like one of those shows that is just kind of parodying all of society, right? But yeah, decent characters. Even the ones that only show up for like 1 or 2 episodes I think are pretty fun. There was like the worker lady who was there for a while, the maid girl who like was her own Scooby-Doo detective case solution, like an almost porn star. Like, I thought the detective lady was quite fun. I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, like the 2 school friends, the guy and Akira, I think is her name. They're both fun. The one blonde girl voiced by Haruka Tomatsu is fun, whose name I can't remember, but like had a kind of sweet thing going on with some guy that was a nerd. It's good. Like, it has good vibes. I don't dislike it. It's not really my thing, but I definitely see like what the show is going for, and it did execute it very well. And genuinely, I think the whole connection, or rather the building of the connection between Ko and Nazuna is really well done. I think it's very sweet, very cute, and it's built at a good pace throughout. So I can't complain. It's a pretty fun show. Maybe like if you want to go back to this one, like watch the trailer first and see if it's like, oh, that's the right vibes, that's what I'm going for, and then you watch it, right? But yeah, I liked it. It was good. My stepmom's daughter is my ex. We get it. Your parents didn't love you. So I did watch all 12 episodes of the show, and you might be asking yourself why, and that's a fantastic question. But I have a question for God. Why? What was the point of this show? I do know that there's been a recent surge in stepsister type stories, right? There's the guy who writes one of the only slice of life light novels that I read. My friend's little sister has it in for me, which is an anime upcoming. Let it be known. It's basically Uzaki-chan and Nagatoro, but mixed with Sayakano. You'll see what I mean eventually. He also writes a light novel series called Days with My Stepsister. It all kind of blurs the lines between what's okay for romance and what's not, right? Like, is this okay? And the question is never really answered. But I will admit that there is a unique vibe to be had with the whole stepsister thing, because when you're like step siblings, you're not blood related, so there's like a potential for romance, but you're also siblings, so you get to be even closer than you probably would have been as just boyfriend and girlfriend, right? I get the appeal, because it's like when you live together with someone, you get to know them inside and out, usually, right? Like that's just a given. So I get the appeal of these kinds of shows, and this one, I didn't think it was all that bad. I thought it was okay here and there, right? Aside from the overt referencing of actual manga and light novels, the characters I thought were fair. Like, they weren't bad, they served their purposes well, but it does get very annoying. It feels like they do the same shit over and over again, even though they don't, but it kind of feels like they do. Overall, I mean, it has a decent cast of characters. What is the green-haired girl's name? I thought she was delightful. A really good, like, modern twist on, like, a love interest. The main two annoy me, of course they do, and I don't really understand what the direction was they were trying to go with it. I get they're implying that there's still, like, romantic feelings between those two, and, like, that's fine, but I just have a hard time with it. it wasn't bad, right? Because they did do a lot of fun things throughout, and like a lot of the bits they had were okay, and they paid off, because like usually Yume ended up like blushing a lot, and it was like, oh, she still has feelings for you. What the fuck is his name? Mizuto. There it is. And it cycles through a lot of the big anime tropes and does them pretty well. And yeah, the two main characters are pretty bland. It doesn't really have a lot of redeeming qualities, aside from the fact that it has attractive characters and a few funny bits here and there. I actually thought the two side characters, the ones that, I can't remember their names, but the ones with the lighter colored hair, they were funny. And Mizuto has his moments, and I get like the backstory. Like the backstory that was revealed for him towards the end was good enough. Higashida, there it is. Sorry, I just randomly remembered the green-haired girl's name, just out of nowhere. There, okay. But yeah. If this is your thing, you will probably enjoy it. If it's not, then it was a show with teenagers with big titties. Batting cleanup today, Lycoris Recoil. Maybe Lycoris Recoil? I don't care what it is. I always say LY is Lycoris. Whatever. It's Lycoris Recoil to me. I remember looking forward to this one when, like, before it started, right? Because I was just like, girls with guns. Semi-futuristic city vibe. I'm into it, right? I didn't expect it to get as popular as it did, nor did I expect it to go in the direction that it did. If I had to say one thing about it, it was definitely a show. No, but actually, I thought, at the very least, if there was something to say about it, I thought it was different. And you can take that in a good or a bad way, because it's applicable to both. Lycoris Recoil has a lot of good things about it. When I say I want characters to interact more and just have fun being themselves, Lycoris Recoil is a perfect example. The main four girls and how they talk to each other is incredibly fun. It's relaxed, the dialogue flows super well, they clearly know each other very well because like of just how they talk to each other. It's really good. So, and even the teacher guy plays into that, right? Just how they talk to each other constantly is really fun, and it's a perfect model for like what I mean when I say I want to see the characters just interact more and doing whatever. They Lycoris Recoil nails that. It also has really good themes throughout. I really like how they handled Chisato not wanting to kill anybody, and how that plays into the final conflict. And it has a lot of themes about like what makes a person good versus what makes a person evil, like perceptions of good and evil, like with Majima and all that. It has a lot of good themes running through it, and a lot of the action sequences even are pretty damn solid. It just felt like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be, right? Because it feels like there's some cognitive dissonance between like happy-go-lucky girls having fun playing VR game or just running a shop, girls with guns defending the city, and there's a major threat on the horizon with some green-haired guy trying to expose the secret organization that of the Lycoris and uproot the peace. There's no reason it can't be both. There are plenty of shows to accomplish more than that, but it jumped between those two too quickly. It could have just tried to maintain both, like, ongoing, but, like, it felt like one episode, it was one thing, the next, it was the other. And I just couldn't keep track of everything, because, like, what parts matter and what parts don't, right? Like, there's no clear answer. And, like, when Majima fucking showed up in Chisato's apartment, I was like, oh, so this is where we're at. So we just, like, have the main guy just hanging out for some coffee, for some fucking oolong tea at the protagonist's house. I see. So I guess story doesn't matter anymore. And it's not that didn't contribute. It was just kind of jarring, just like a lot of the show was. So like the story they were trying to tell was good. It was the method they went about it that I questioned. But I do think it was very fun. Overall, I think there's a lot of good things about it that can really just carry it. You know, it doesn't need anything other than what it was. It just should have changed the method it told the story in, right? It just was a little bit jarring. But I really like all the characters. I really like the whole mechanical heart aspect angle, even though that came out of nowhere. I liked the ending. I thought it was cute. But yeah, and like the bond between Sato and Takina going throughout the show, them getting closer and closer, really nicely done. It just couldn't decide what it wanted to be. And it needed to decide, it was trying to be one or the other, and it needed to be both. Like, you could have been both simultaneously, but it just went back and forth between those two things, like, too fast. So, but yeah, overall I thought it was fun. I like girls with guns. Like, it had just a good vibe at the start. Girls shooting people. Anime girls shooting people. Good stuff. Okay, my Isekai Life. There's not much notable about this one. It's just a guy who just does random isekai shit with a bunch of slimes. There's not really any consistent characters except for them and the Dryad, I guess. But she only comes up like fucking 4 times in 12 episodes. It's just like the latest in the isekai trend of wandering around and not doing anything of purpose. Anyways, like wandering around with no purpose, and he just kind of does what he wants. Like, the only purpose Yuji ever has is eat food, and that's it. And then he occasionally just happens to solve massive issues by chance. Not saying there's anything wrong with that format. I'm just saying that it doesn't tickle my fancy, if you will. Like, I want something consistent that I can get invested in. But I guess if you like shutting your brain off, then this is fine. Originally, I thought this was just fucking boring. I will admit, though, that the final episode kind of made it all worth it by tying everything together, because like pretty much all the places that Yuji had visited were helping out with the huge monster crisis in some capacity, and they were like, we gotta defend this town that Yuji saved. Woohoo! Everybody grab your axes and baseball bats and let's go to town. And that was actually, I thought it was a pretty solid thing that had happened there. So, I appreciate it for doing that, but, I mean, there's just not much notable about this. Even Yuji as a character is basically the bare minimum isekai protagonist. He's like, I used to work at a black company, they didn't treat me very well, but now I have my own power. And a bunch of slimes that were super fucking annoying. So, it was... I don't get this format of isekai, but at least the opening goes hard. Alright, next up, Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting. I really like this one. I thought it was one of the best shows of the season. Actually, there's one of the ways I measure like how good a show is what would I change about it, and there's not a whole lot I would change about this, except for maybe the YouTube episode. That was a little bit weird, you know, where they start streaming in masks and shit. That was a little bit weird and out of place, kind of like the rap episode from Kaguya-sama last season. It was just kind of out of place, weird, but it happened. And I'm not sure if I was on drugs during it, but maybe I was and maybe I wasn't. I don't know. But man, it's just so adorable. Like, I mean, there's not much more to it than some guy who used to be a brutal Yakuza guy beating the ever-loving shit out of anyone he didn't like, babysits the Yakuza chief's daughter by some unfortunate coincidence, and they both have a positive effect on each other, and that's it. Like, the whole oh my god, Kirishima, he like has such a huge positive change ever since he started babysitting, and like it just, you see it happen, you witness it, like, and you can tell his attitudes like calmed down a bunch. He's cooled off a lot. He doesn't fight people on first sight anymore. But then there's like a moment where they hurt Yaika, like towards the end, and he goes Insano style, right? Like he goes berserk and reverts back to his old days. And there are like some people trying to like pull the strings to make Kirishima a demon again. And you don't see a whole lot of those characters, but even like those minor characters, like the guy who talks like he's gay, that one white hair guy that shows up like twice and was like, I wanted you to be a demon all along, and then walks away, or maybe he gets punched one time, I can't remember. And then like the guy who's angry all the time, who was like in jail and got out and wanted to beat up Kirishima even though he just got out of jail. They added to the story and to the world that like had like what had taken place even before the anime started. And even Yaika, like her whole, oh my god, some of the most wholesome moments were like where like, it was like parent day or whatever at her school, and Kirishima came in and he was like, oh, so you drew that. it looks like a gorilla, or like whatever it is he said, and like all the moms were like, oh, he's hot. It's so wholesome. And even Yaika's friends, like the girl who was like American or whatever and like barely spoke English, and the other girl whose name I don't remember, but like she wanted to be friends with Yaika forever. Adorable. Like there's not a lot to this, right? It's a pretty standard formula, but I really like what they did with it. And like the whole Kirishima goes back to being a demon for like one episode, and then Yaika kind of helps talk him out of it. It was all good stuff. Like it was predictable, sure, but it still worked really well. And I even really like a lot of the characters, like the side characters, like the sister. Was it her sis? Is the Yakuza chief's sister-in-law, Uehara? What's his name? The blonde guy with the ponytail. I like him. Orange-haired guy and his wife and kids, plural. And even the whole angle of Yaika's mom being in a coma in the hospital. Really sad, but also like it's super wholesome stuff. Like there's that whole arc where Yaika's like, I want to, like she didn't want to see mom at first, and then she was like, I want to see mom and I'll bring her flowers or whatever. It's really cute, really cute, and I really liked this whole show, except for the YouTube episode, which was very strange. But other than that, I thought it was really good. So yeah, definitely wholesome watch. Big fan. All right. I want everyone to get ready to pause the video. I want you to do what I say. I want you to come up with maybe a short list, or you can do a full list, I don't care. But list every single bad thing you can think of, something you didn't like about Sword Art Online. Go ahead. Are you back? Now, make it 10 times worse. Every one of those, make it 10 times worse. Now you have Engaged Kiss. There has never been a main character with like basically zero redeeming qualities, except for the fact that he's good in a fight and has like some determination to accomplish something, than Shu. I could not give less of a shit about the guy. He just, like, all he does is complain and smoke cigarettes. Really not a good role model. Yet for some reason he gets all the pussy in the entire show. Like there's no pussy left for anybody else. He just steals it all by being the protagonist. It's incredible. Like who knows how many girls he's stuck his poisoned schlong into. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. I don't know who needs to hear this, but there's more to a good protagonist than the ability to get laid for no reason. I can't take all the credit away, right? Because visuals throughout were pretty damn impressive. I really liked a lot of the animation sequences. There was a lot of good stuff here and there, and even certain aspects of the story were okay. But man, the love triangle made me want to slam my head against a wall between Shu Kisara and I'm forgetting her name. Ayano. There it is. Shu, Kisara, and Ayano. That love triangle made me want to slam my hand against a wall constantly. I feel like they tried to accomplish more in this than they should have. They had 13 episodes and they tried to accomplish a whole goddamn lot. They tried to build this massive world that just like has these demon hunters and demons, and there's a bunch of inside workings, and it just didn't work. It was too much all at once. Right? The pacing of this show was goddamn awful. Like, it literally took us 3 episodes. It took you the first 3 episodes to learn that when Kisara, or Shu was giving Kisara power, she was stealing his memories. And then, towards the end, you learn that she didn't even have to do that. She didn't need to steal his memories, she was just doing it because she was a jealous bitch. Like, everything they set up, they just tore it all down. And like even like some of the characters, like in what they do, they just were there. Like they were just giving information that we didn't need. It was unbelievable. Like I can't. It was just too much. The only part of the story that was even worth its salt was like when the guy that used to take care of Shu turned out to be demonically possessed. That was a good scene. Like that whole like battle sequence and like the actual like how they eliminated him and he didn't really want to, like his inner conflicts there. That was good. There was something there. And even the story arc behind like getting Shu's little sister back. You know, that's like the whole goal throughout. Even though we don't learn that until like episode 3, there's some merit there, right? Like there was like, oh, so she got in a freak accident and became a demonically possessed. Let's snap her out of that. And a lot of that battle sequence at the end with her was good. And it's just apparently, you know, when they said a sister is all you need, they were goddamn right. Because no matter how much pussy you get, you always come back to your little sister. That's what matters in the end. Not your little sister's pussy. No, that's not what I mean. It just means you get pussy in order to save your little sister. Also, sometimes put poison on your dick, which is one of my favorite things that has ever happened. Not poison, but it was like a fucking sleep drug. He put sleep drug. It was like, I can't remember what the wording was, but they said, don't you have to take poison, like a sleep drug through your mouth? Like, and someone was like, I hate to break it to you, but that's not the only mucous membrane on the female body. And then there was like a flashback scene of Shu just putting his dick in, and she was like, incredible scenes. That was my favorite part of the whole show. But the story was goddamn poorly paced, and a lot of the character interactions seemed so pointless, especially from the beginning. Like they didn't do anything, and even at the end, we're just back to square one. It was just like, come on, we're back to square one, but with the little sister. Does that improve the situation? I don't know, but up to you. But I just there was so much about it that I feel like it could have been good, but they just piled on too much bullshit that we didn't need. I feel like I could witness a better story if I just went and sat in the corner of a Walmart for 3 hours. Like, I just watch people argue and be like, oh, I can get into this. Couldn't get into Engaged Kiss though. It complicates the plot for no reason. Random love interests enter and exit the fray at random times. And they all have feelings for a guy with basically zero redeeming qualities, and who has done absolutely nothing to win their affection. And it tries to build this, you know, the massive, immersive world that ends up falling totally flat. Every character is just totally bland, with nothing of note about them, with either unimpressive or unclear motivations. And the story of world are just way too much for 13 episodes. They're all way too complex for the show's good, and the romance makes me want to throw myself out a window, which I think I'll do. Yeah, after this though. Next up, Ayumu makes his move. I thought this was super cute, actually. It was one of those that cycles through a bunch of the anime tropes, but I like this new era of rom-coms where they're being more direct. Right? Like, I don't know jack about shogi, man. I don't know how to I barely even remember how to play chess. Yeah, but I liked it. There's a lot of good things about it. The characters, solid. The pacing, solid. Just everything about it makes for a good rom-com. And the direct approach that Ayumu takes to his crush on Urushi is very wholesome. Kind of wish it ended a little bit better, but I thought overall it was a cute ending still. And again, a lot of anime tropes. Then there's a lot of episodes that are just not impressive, but on the whole, I thought it was a super cute rom-com, and even the side characters work really well. I thought the little side romance, the bonus romance between the two kids with the lighter hair, very adorable, very cute, adds to the story Like it's like that's something you didn't have to do, but you included it anyway. It's just nice, right? Like it's a change of pace, and yeah, I really like it. You know, it's not all that much different from every other slice of life rom-com that's ever existed, except for the fact that they play shogi all the time. But I mean, the pacing of this one and like the direction it goes, it just makes it really easy to roll with. I'm just a big fan. So good stuff, like good solid rom-com. So Vermeil and Gold. I hate to break this to you. I hate to pour the cold water on you, but if I wanted to watch a hentai, I would watch a hentai. There's not a lot of redeeming qualities to this show. It's just a pretty standard, like, fantasy world at school. There's a ranking system. Random girl comes out of nowhere into the main character's life. He falls in love with her, she falls in love with him, and they vow to be the strongest together. There's some, you know, you learn the backstory around episode 11 of the girl who shows up out of nowhere. There's another tsundere who's had a crush on the protagonist forever. There's a couple other side characters. There's a villain who's a little too flirty for his own good, who gets away at the end. If you like big titties, yeah, I recommend it. But if you don't give a fuck about characters with not a lot worth noting about them, then maybe not. They do like kissing though. Maybe if you get turned on by kissing, there's some merit here. But even then, just watch fucking hentai. The romance angle is kind of weird because like the whole focus is, can a human and a demon coexist? Of course they fucking can. If they believe in themselves. And you better be goddamn sure they believe in themselves. So, I think the romance is, in the world, fine. In terms of the story, it's not like it was bad. It just wasn't good. There were lots of titties, though. Speaking of hentai, Harem and the Labyrinth of Another World. This is just a mediocre hentai, and you don't even get to see the good parts. This is incredibly boring. It's not like, again, it wasn't bad. It's not like there was a lot that was actively bad about it. It was just boring. There was no even, there's literally in the title, Harem. There wasn't even a second love interest until episode 11. And then like at the credits scene, 3 of them come in at once, and they have like a fucking orgy, which is fine. Like, but man, the actual anime, fucking boring. Like, wow. They just do nothing, and they spend too much time trying to build up, like, the magic thing, right? Because I know I criticize Lycoris Recoil for not being able to be 2 things at once, and it should have been 2 things at once. This one might have also tried to be 2 things at once, right? It tried to be like a hentai, harem, fan service bullshit, and also an isekai with a really fleshed out fucking RPG system. It perhaps successfully accomplished both of those things at once. But also, I don't care, right? Like, I don't care about the isekai fucking RPG system. I don't care about your level ups. I don't care about your skills. Like, I think it just went too in-depth, right? And it was paced too fucking slowly. And those things are intertwined, of course, but like, it was just too slow. They didn't do anything. It took them like a million episodes, no, maybe like 6 or 7, to get to like one boss. Like, if there was an actual harem to be had in the main show, then I probably would have been a happy camper. But this was so fucking slow. You like get to see their entire day. Like, you see every single part of their day. And then, including the fucking at the end. But you don't even get to see the good part of the fucking. So, like, what's the point? It was so boring. Like, the main character isn't bad. And I don't think Roxanne is really that bad either. But neither of them are really worth a damn either. This was so boring. It was too slow. Like Sonic would say, you're too slow. That shit was so fucking boring. There's an uncensored version, right? Like, Crunchyroll has it censored, but there's an uncensored version, which I watched. And even that, I was just like, you still don't even get to see the good part. It's like, what's the point, right? Like, you get to see titties and that's it. It takes a little more than that to impress me, okay? Jeez. How many hentai do you think I've seen? No answer to that. The maid I recently hired is mysterious. This one is a little bit better than I thought it would be. At first I was like, this is just one of those shows that recycles the same joke over and over. And it kind of is, but it actually has okay pacing. Like, pacing that's at least worth something. And I think the main two characters, Lilith and what's-his-face, blonde little boy, not bad. I don't really have much to say about this one. There's not really anything incredible about it. There's not really anything bad about it. I thought it was fair enough, you know, like, it does what it sets out to accomplish. It's just, you know, not necessarily my cup of tea, but it does what it says it's gonna do. There's a hot maid, and the directness of the main character catches her off guard sometimes. The progression of the story is nice though, because like by episode 8 or whatever, he's like, oh, so I'm in love with her, and he just accepts that. And like, hey, guess what? I'm in love with you. There's a wrench thrown into the mix with what's her face, the one who shows up around episode 9. Obviously, the show hasn't ended as of right now, but I do think it's all right. If you watch it for Lilith, so that's acceptable, and it does enough to keep your attention. So, fair play. Okay, Black Summoner. This is one of my favorites of the season. I thought it was really solid. This is an example of an isekai that feels like it has purpose to it, even though it's kind of the same thing where they kind of wander around aimlessly a lot. But I think there's enough nuance to it, where the characters kind of have their own motivations, however shallow they may be. Kelvin, Mr. Battle Junkie, that is the whole bit. He's like, oh, he's a battle junkie. I get it. You got it the first 3 times. A lot of the characters here are really solid. There's some really wholesome moments throughout, like the way Kelvin recruits all his pals. Very wholesome, very sweet, and I love their interactions throughout, just how they talk to each other. Good stuff. Like, this is one of those isekais that you know for a fact, like, somewhere, somehow, a 16-year-old now says their favorite genre of anime is isekai because of this one. Like, they're gonna go out and watch a bunch of isekai anime because they found this one first. Like, in 5 years, Black Summer is gonna be super nostalgic for them. You know what I mean? Like, this is that one. It's like, it's not super amazing, but it has enough good qualities to it to make it somebody's favorite show. Like, it's gonna be something that like one of those shows that someone's gonna have a bias for in like 5 years. Like, you know, like one of my favorite isekais, like Black Summoner. You know, you watched that one? Like, that one I thought it was really good. Because they just happened to watch it when they were at the right age. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's just really solid. Like, there's not a lot to say about it. I think the 3D is a bit jarring. I feel like it gets better over time, but the use of 3D is understandable because it's like, you want to make fun, good battle scenes. I get it. It starts out a bit jarring. It's like, whoa, okay, we're in 3D now. By the end, I think it's a little better. Like, they kind of figured it out. It still absolutely looks different from the normal style, but the way they use it, I think, validates it. So, good stuff. Again, not really a whole lot of a story here, but I do like stuff like just the way Kelvin picks up both Ethel, I don't really know how they say it in the English dub, but Ethel and Sarah, the way he recruits both of those girls is super wholesome, and just how he interacts with them both as well. Like, even finding someone else who'd been reincarnated at the end and had that awesome fight scene, good stuff. And Kelvin's interactions with the heroes, where he pretended to be the bad guy, like the fucking slave trader boss, and like he fights with all the heroes and shows them what for. Like, there's enough nuance to it, and Kelvin has a good enough character where you understand his motivations that this entire show is fun. I really like this one. Very solid. If you like isekai, this one's definitely worth a watch, I think. Very casual, very fun. So Fuuto PI, I'm not going to claim to know anything about the play that it's based on, because I don't, but this one kind of started off a bit slow, and I think it's getting a lot better. I really like this one now. Like over time, it's gotten a lot better. Like with the 2 most recent arcs, with the one at the mansion where they were snowed in, and the one about the girl who was an idol for like some mobile game. Good stuff. I think it's really fun. Even like a lot of the characters, super fun. Shotaro and Philip are great. I love those 2 together. It like I said, starts out a little bit slow and weird, but it gets better. I really, really like it now. Again, like I said, with the Maid, it's not over yet. I've still got a few episodes to go, but as of right now, I really, really like it. And there's a lot of even like, it's probably just above Scooby-Doo level of mystery solving, but it is fun, right? Like it's not like Sherlock Holmes level, but it's somewhere in the middle. So there is like mysteries to it, you know, like there's good stuff, and there's even some good action. Like a lot of the fight sequences are pretty solid. So like, as far as detective shows go, it's really got a lot going for it. So good characters, good environment, and I like the whole like the thing, because I think the reason why it started off weird was because that was the whole Tokime arc, where there was like another world, which I imagine we're gonna get to here in the next few episodes, where there's another Fuuto, like an reverse world Fuuto, and then he finds Tokime in there, and then Tokime just kind of joins everybody, and then it becomes normal, right? And she's just like there now, but she was like so mysterious at first. I don't mind the change, and I like Tokime as a character, but it's just like, it just kind of came off weird. But her addition, her inclusion does add to the story, so I can't complain. And I really like all the characters together, like those main 4. Even the one chick's husband, I think, is super funny. I think he's hilarious. I love that guy. But yeah, good stuff. Fuuto PI, if you like mystery shows, even shows where they turn into robots and fight people, I think it's worth it. Like, definitely fun, for sure. Really good. Like one of my favorites of the season so far. Anyway, it hasn't ended yet, but Cyclone Joker. You know how it is. All right, so for my cultural edification and for yours, I watched the Tokyo Mew Mew reboot and really liked it. This is, again, one of my favorite shows of the season. There's something refreshing about shows from the 90s, right? Because this was before every decision you made had like 5 different implications among 5 different groups of people in this massive, expansive world that the story has built, right? You know what they do in Tokyo Mew Mew? They fight people. It's a bunch of cute girls who fight people in magical girl outfits with magical girl attacks that don't make sense to save the environment. That's it. That's the show. But you know, sometimes they have like, there's some disagreements. They work at a cafe also, but like there's some disagreements. They have to recruit all of the different Mew Mews. Like they have to come to accept the fact that they have to fight with the Mew Mew organization. They want to save the environment. They have to find their motivations. They have to, all the different characters influence each other. Simply, the main girl has a crush on a dude, and it's very wholesome. She turns into a cat sometimes, and the bad guys had their planet polluted to shit, so they're going to come and inhabit another one, and that's their motivations, and that's it. Like, that's literally the entire show. Like, you don't have, like, that's it. But they just fight people, and it's adorable. And the magical girl transformation scenes take 25 seconds. I counted. And you know what? Again, for what it is, I thought it was delightful. Our little group of 5 magical girls are great. I love them. They're just so cute. You know, bullying is a little annoying, but that's to be expected. Like, I thought it was adorable. Like, it's so simple. It's so easy to go along with. Like, literally the most complex topic is the fact that the main girl, Ichigo, has a crush on Aoyama, and doesn't want him to know that she, like, has a cat magical girl uniform and fights people sometimes. And that's, like, if he finds out about that, he'll never love me again. That's the most complex thing. It's so fun. Ugh. I thought it was delightful. I thought it was, so fun. If if you get nostalgic for shows like this, where everything is like super simple, Tokyo Mew Mew is so much fun. You just have to go along with it, right? Like, it's not going to be a lot of fun if you don't think it's going to be, right? Because this is one of those shows where it's like, it is what you make of it. Because, like, if you think you're going to have a good time, you're going to enjoy yourself watching this, then you're going to enjoy yourself. You're going to have a great time. But if not, then it's not going to impress you, right? It's not going to go out of its way to impress you. You just got to be like, this is fun. You just enjoy yourself. And that's what I did, and I enjoyed myself. I thought it was fucking great. I love Tokyo Mew Mew. I love magical girls. Alright, that's all. Oh yeah, and we got season 2 of Tokyo Mew Mew announced. Let's go. The big moves right there. Let's fucking go. Okay, let it be known this season is notable because I dropped my first ever seasonal, Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. Shit was confusing and boring, and also 24 episodes. I was gonna get through it if it was 12 episodes, and then it says me 24, and I was like, all right, I don't think I'm gonna make it. So I dropped it. Also, I watched Extreme Hearts and Shine Post. Shine Post is not over, but Extreme Hearts is delightful. I thought Shine Post was great as well. Maybe not great, but like they're very delightful, cute little idol shows where they sing a bunch and play sports in Extreme Hearts. That's it. Next is the 2 cores. First up, Cuckoos. If I could let women write all rom-coms, I would. Yosh Kawamiki, I love you. A lot. If you watched my video on the Kodansha manga I'm reading, you already know how I feel about Cuckoos. But yes, I have read the manga ahead of time. I think Cuckoos is delightful. This is probably my favorite rom-com in the genre of in school, one guy has multiple dating prospects. I think this is probably my favorite one. I feel like it not only has a good start, a really strong start to get you hooked on it, but it also has good character development throughout. Like, this is one of the very few rom-coms of this style where I feel like it has a purpose. It does slow down. I feel like it gets a bit, it's a little bit, sidetracked and dragged out a little bit. But overall, I actually think it's fun, and I think the characters even have enough nuance and, just love put into them by the creator that it's worth it. It's just fun to see them interact, right? Like, one of my favorite things, this is a great example of like how just an easy way to make characters more interesting and more human feeling. Nagi randomly gets naked because it makes him feel like he's at one with nature. It's not anything that really adds to the story, but it's funny. And it's something random about him that just makes him feel more human, right? Like, just makes him feel like he's an actual person and a character with a purpose, right? It's just something small, like some stuff like that, you can just tack on to characters that just makes them immediately more interesting and the whole thing more funny. So that just stuff like that is a great example of how you this entire thing, I feel like it has purpose, right? And I think the romance aspect with all 3 of the love interests is done super well. It's just really consistent, and like the way it's approached for all 3 of them is different, because it should be. Like, they're different personalities, different backgrounds with Nagi, and just different experiences altogether. Again, I mentioned this when I mentioned this in my manga review of it, but one of my favorite lines in Cuckoos is when Erika says, "I don't have feelings for you yet." Right? Because I feel like that's a stage of the romantic courtship process that is never acknowledged in, actively acknowledged in rom-coms, right? Where they're, like, still learning about each other, and they recognize that, like, hey, I'm a little bit into you, but I'm not sure yet. Like, I don't know what these feelings I have are, and I just need to wait for them to develop a little more, and we need to have more experiences together before I can say for sure. And that's it. And like, even the experiences that Nagi has with all his love interests, they're fun and they add to the story. I think it's great. I feel like it's a super self-contained experience as well, and I think the cast is just pretty much perfect. Like, the characters, they all have great dynamics with each other, and even like with Nagi and each other. And it's always a treat to watch them talk to each other, no matter what combination of characters is doing the talking, right? Even the side characters are good and don't feel like they're taking up space when they shouldn't be. And I think Nagi is a really great, maybe even like the perfect protagonist for like a rom-com like this, because he's dorky and studious and lonerish, but he also has enough charisma about him to carry himself through these conversations with girls who are like kind of normies, right? He can still carry himself well in a conversation, but he's also very like a typical of protagonists in this kind of genre. He's lonerish, studious, has best grades in the class, whatever. Like, but he's still worth a damn in conversation, right? Like there's enough about his character that makes you want to care about the guy. And again, I do feel like it slows down around the middle, but it does feel like for the most part it has purpose at all points in the show. There's the stuff about Erica's brother. There's the random, like seemingly random involvement of Erica's foster parents, Nagi's actual parents. I really even like Nagi's foster parents, Erica's actual parents, and their dynamic as Erica tries to get into the family a little bit and like as their biological daughter. It's all very sweet and it's all well done. Again, it kind of maybe jumps a little bit from point to point, but there's nice transitions between everything, and I really just like almost everything they do. I think it's absolutely one of the best rom-coms of this style. And if you are into rom-coms of this style, you are almost certainly going to like Cuckoos, unless you don't like shows that have good character development and take a little bit of brain power to understand. If that doesn't sound like your thing, then go back to Nagatoro, you fucking pussy. Alright, next two core, Summertime Render. Is it an exaggeration to call this show the best show of the year? That's not a sequel. We still haven't gotten Chainsaw Man, but this might be one of the shows of the year. And pretty comfortably. I mean, it's an incredible, super in-depth, super compelling mystery show. It's just so good. Like everything about it is really, really good. It does go a little Insano style at the end, where they like go into a world of nothing without time, and I haven't seen the last episode as of right now, but I mean, every single aspect of this show is at least really good. Right? Like even the fight sequences, which don't happen that often, have great animation. They look stunning. So I mean, the mystery aspect of it, the way Shinpei time loops, and like how he changes going about things in each loop, and like how the actual time looping even works in the first place, it's all super well thought out, and it's super compelling all the way through. Like the story is super fun. I think the involvement, like just how the shadows work, it's so good. The mystery is incredible. The characters are great. I love everything about Summertime Render. It's really, really good. And even like the way that the story is set up, right, where you have like the evil shadows, right, like there's nothing we can do about like the shadows. We have to figure out a way to stop the shadows, but we as humans are super powerless. Like how are we ever going to stop the shadows if we don't have the ability to really fight the strongest ones? And then it turns out that there's like a rogue shadow, right? There's a shadow that doesn't go along with Hein and Shide. And it turns out the shadow had taken the form of Shinpei's dead crush. It's like so perfect. Like, everything lines up. It's yes. It's so good. So good. I love Summertime Render. I mean, I don't even know what else to fucking tell you about it. Like, you just have to watch it. Like, it's that good. Like, if you even have an inkling of liking mystery shows, Summertime Render, absolutely worth the watch. I mean, it's so good. So good. And, like, a lot of the backstory, like Hizuru's backstory with Hein, fucking Shide doing his, whatever it is he does, like the mystery behind how is Ushio's shadow even here, then eventually getting Mio's shadow on their side. It's yes, Summertime Render is super fucking good. Watch it. Watch Summertime Render. Wow. Holy fuck. Yes. It's just, it's so good. Like, it keeps you in suspense. Like, if you binge this motherfucker, you would be like on the edge of your seat. Like, it's so good. So good. Yes. Oh my god. I can't, the final episode hits, oh my god, fuck me. Watch Summertime Render. It's so good. Okay, time for sequels. Orient Part 2. I like the Awaji Island arc. It definitely uproots a lot of what we've known about the world of Orient from the first season. Like, in the sense that you have to, like, connect blade energy and all this sense and even in order to accomplish anything. But there's a lot of stuff that's really good about it as well. A lot of the backstory for Akihiro and his brothers. I think that's really good. Michiru wrecked me emotionally when I read the manga. There's a lot of good stuff about it. Again, Orient is not the most impressive shonen out there, and the animation proves that, right? Like, it's definitely not stunning. The bright colors help, but it's not the most it's not the most thorough and exciting animation. And even like a lot of the fights feel, or most of like the big fights, there's like 3 big fights, kind of feel like they ended kind of lame, right? The way it like builds up Musashi and like how they develop him throughout the entire arc is really well done. And even like a lot of the side characters I think are really fun. I think Musashi's bonds with Katsumi and Michiru are really highlighted here. It's just fun. Like, you do have to want to like it, right? Like, it's like, if you want to like it, again, you're gonna like it, I think. In terms of like the overall scene of shonen, it doesn't have too much going for it, but I do think overall it was a good experience. Like, it's a good arc, and obviously there's going to be a whole lot more of Orient in terms of the manga, like in the actual story behind it, and there's a lot of mystery that's still left unsolved, but it's not a bad arc. And I like a lot of the characters that they introduce here. Like, Naoe is one of my fucking favorite motherfuckers. He's so fun. And the involvement of even some of the characters we'd seen previously, like what's his name? Blue-haired guy? Whose name I forget? Naotora. There it is. I got it. Takeda Naotora. There it is. I am so good. Yeah. Good stuff. It's just, I don't think, it's definitely not bad, and it has a lot going for it, but it's not the most exciting thing in the world. But I do think how Michiru is presented, even alongside Musashi, is like they have holes in their hearts or whatever, and they need to fill it up by loving someone else. It's a very human way of presenting them. And like how she just yearns for love from her, the only father she's ever had. It's good. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but I do really like it. Next up, Rent-A-Girlfriend Season 2, the shit sucked. Next! If you watched my video about the Kodansha manga, you know how I feel about Rent-A-Girlfriend, and it's just reaffirmed. Somehow the music in Rent-A-Girlfriend is really fucking good. I don't know who they hired, but they need to get him on another show instead of this one. But most of my problems with Rent-A-Girlfriend fall under the umbrella of Kazuya being an absolute tool. And he is. It's not like the series as a whole is bad. It has its moments here and there, but they're so few and far between because of the way it drags itself out for no reason at all. Like, Kazuya never feels like he makes any progression as a character. Like, he just occasionally has moments where he decides, just offhandedly, to be a decent human being to the women in his life. And then after that, just immediately goes back to being a loser virgin asshole. Like, he can't communicate with people properly most of the time. We get to hear every single thought that runs through this man's head. It's too much. Like, where's the happy medium? I mean, story-wise, it accomplishes a few things. Like, it sets up for the movie arc. But, I mean, it really doesn't make all that much progression. I do like the acting thing where he's like, I'm gonna support you for doing your acting. Like, I admire how hard you're working all the time to make your dreams come true. And Chizuru's good in that aspect, but a lot of the other characters, and I like Sumi, she's fucking adorable, and that whole date sequence was not bad, but for the most part, a lot of the interactions with the other characters were just obnoxious. I'm looking at you, Ruka, and Mommy, but Mommy was worse. There's not a lot that's like actively good about Rent-A-Girlfriend. If you like it, then you like it, right? There is some okay things about it, and I mentioned this in my manga when I talked about the manga. The movie arc's alright. So next season should hopefully be worth a damn. That's all I'm saying. It'll be slow and dragged out again, but it might actually be worth something. But yeah, not a lot of note in season 2, really. Just kind of a few moments where Kazuya and Chizuru are learning a little bit more about each other and accepting the fact that they're neighbors and can be friends, etc. Okay, is it wrong to pick up Girls in a Dungeon season 4? Danmachi kind of got better as it went along, and I think that holds true here. I think with each progressive season it got better. I don't think I prefer this one over season 3, but it did have a lot going for it, I think. And we are getting a sequel, like part 2, season 4 part 2 or whatever, in January, so we're not done yet. But there is a lot that like kind of is a little bit interesting about this season, and there's plenty more fire bolts to go around, so it's not like a whole lot has changed. It's just that Belle is super strong and a little more confident now, so we're kind of at the place we should have been about 2 seasons ago. But there is some good stuff here. I actually think I prefer the first arc of this season to the second one, although the second one does have like the whole intrigue behind like why did what's her name, the elf girl whose name I forget, like why did she supposedly kill these people, and like what is she hiding, like what's this threat that's looming over everybody, and then the giant dinosaur spider monster comes out of nowhere and kills a lot of people. Yeah, but the expedition like as a whole, and like again, this is kind of like it's in season 3, Belle interacted with that one what's the name of the people, I don't know, but the one little devil girl or whatever she was. I thought that was really, really good stuff, and that kind of happened again to a lesser extent with the mermaid girl. It wasn't super amazing or anything, but I did like a lot of the fight that happened. Was it episode like at 5 or 6 maybe? I don't remember even what he fought. The monster designs are a bit fucky, but I do remember liking that fight. And again, like the mystery element from the second half, where they're like, why did the elf girl kill these people? And like eventually getting to the fight with the monster who killed the elf girl's family. It's all right stuff. And a lot of the scenes, like that last fight sequence of the last episode, that went kind of hard. Yeah, I mean, overall, this was an enjoyable season. Enjoyable first half of the season, I guess. But yeah, like it just feels like we're in a rhythm now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it is developing at an okay rate, but it does feel like we went from 0 to 100 pretty fucking quickly, because like when it left off, they were in the White Palace or whatever it was, and that's supposed, like Aina mentioned, it was like, oh yeah, if you're there, you're fucked, and so that's where he leaves off. So I don't know, but it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I for one was happy to have a break from Hestia. I could have used a little bit less of the girl who can see the future complaining, but other than that, I really enjoyed seeing all of these different characters from different places interact with each other and fight bitches. Decent stuff. Yeah, I liked it. It's Overlord season 4. I've never really been super into Overlord, like a lot of people have. It was kind of a little bit too all over the place for me, but I think Overlord 4 is probably my favorite season of them so far. I do recognize how good it is, right? Because I just never really understood the whole like jumping in between. Like we get to see a bunch of basically Ainz's enemies, right? Like we learn their backstories. Like for example, season 2 started off with the fucking lizard men. That was the most jarring fucking thing that has ever happened to me. I was like, what the fuck? What am I watching right now? Am I watching a show about lizard men? And then the lizard like fucks his love it. Like there's a lot of things that just confuse me. And it's like, why introduce and get to know all these characters just to have Ainz kill them off, right? Like it always seemed weird to me. And I didn't like that we didn't get to see more of just Ainz doing his thing, right? But we kind of see a lot of what's happening from much different angles, which is fine in theory. It's just not really how I would have liked to see it, right? And I do think Overlord 4, like, it kind of started leaning into the little bit more comedic aspect of it, but it's, again, that kind of plays into my mixed feelings about Overlord, because I recognize that it plays with a lot of interesting themes, right? But like at the same time, at the heart of it all, it's like there's a guy who used to be an office worker in Japan, reincarnated into the soul of an undead king who has absolute control over death, and basically plays with the lives of hundreds of thousands of citizens of this other world because he feels like it. So it does feel a bit strange, and I don't like the fact there's a lot of external characters who just end up getting killed off. But the way this season ends gave me chills, right? Like I've always had a bad feeling about the princess, right? And we're supposed to, because there are plenty of moments where she goes like and it's like, whoa, the princess is actually bad. But then when she like surrenders and becomes a vampire or whatever, and eventually like essentially hypnotizes Clyde into doing the same shit, and then does a little musical number, she's the scariest character in that show. She's fucking insane. Like, whoa. Yeah, again, there's a lot of good stuff about this season. It leans a little bit more into the comedic aspect of it. Like I said, it introduced some interesting things, like the two guys that the mimic guy and Albedo fought, exploring the reasons why Ainz would want to flatten the kingdom, how the people are going to respond to that. There is some good stuff. Like I said, I think this is probably my favorite of the Overlord seasons so far, just because I think it's the most consistent out of them. But yeah, we do lose a couple other characters who we kind of gotten to know over the past couple seasons. So, but yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. We are getting a movie next, but yeah, I do like Ainz. So I think Ainz is super cool, and I like his duality as a character, where he's like, you hear the inner voice of his like normal guy, and then his outer voice trying to sound all dignified all the time. And and I even like a lot of the main Nazarick characters as well. Albedo, the little elf twins, Cocutus, Demiurge, what's her little vampire girl? Delightful. I think they're all great. Maybe not like the most amazing characters in the world, but I think they're delightful. So I can get on board with Overlord. That's all. So Overlord will be Overlord. All right, Devil's a Part-Timer Season 2. I did miss Devil's a Part-Timer. It's really, really fun. It is worth mentioning, and I'm going to try to keep this one short because there's not really a whole lot of note here, except towards the end. But I do think this season suffered from what I'm calling Volume 3 syndrome, which really is only pertinent to light novels. But, you know, when you have a light novel series, it's like, obviously Volume 1's got to impress, and Volume 2 immediately follows up 1. And it's like, that one's got to impress too. So Volume 1 and 2 were what was in Season 1. And then Volume 3, when it's a long-running series, kind of slows down a bit. And that's definitely what happened here. I don't think it was bad by any means. I think it was really fun throughout, actually. It just wasn't as impactful as Season 1 was. There wasn't a whole lot that really affected the circumstances that they were in, right? And even by the end, it was like really the only thing that had happened was, I'm about to spoil it, the angel revealed that Emi's parents were around, and Emi's mom had basically used Chiho's body to help fight off the angels who were trying to restore a heavenly crisis or whatever. And it was like revealed that like there's a problem in heaven because Emi's mom is an angel and her dad is a human. So like, why were they able to have a baby? That whole bit. But basically everything like up until that point was just kind of like whatever, right? Like where they went to the beach, and when they went to like fucking Chiho's parents' place, for the most part, it was just kind of like whatever, but I do think it was fun while it was whatever. So that's definitely worth something. But yeah, I liked it. I mean, it was a solid season. It just wasn't as good as Season 1. That's definitely an undeniable fact. But that's not a problem, right? Like, of course it's going to slow down around the middle. Everything. Like, I feel like just about everything does. But yeah, like, just the whole dynamics between everyone. It's unique, it's delightful, it's fun. I really like this show. And I bought the next 3 light novels. We got Season 3 announced, so more's on the way. It's good. It just wasn't as bammo in your face as Season 1 was. But it's slowly building now. Where we've got a story. It just like the story is hiding amongst them going shopping for a TV and fighting bears. So, yeah, it was fun though. All right, next, finally, people watching with Ayano Koji. I mean, Classroom of the Elite Season 2. This was really solid. A step up from Season 1. Absolutely, I think. Because now that the ball's rolling in Classroom of the Elite, we can really start getting into the nitty-gritty of it, and that's what happened. The Classroom of the Elite fan base is I have some choice words for. They seem to be under the impression that you've missed a lot of things in the development of Karuizawa Kei, when you really didn't. You didn't really miss anything. You just have to use your brain a little bit. But Kei's arc throughout this is wonderful. I think the developing her character was done masterfully. She's a unique presence in Classroom of the Elite in the sense that she's almost totally vulnerable from the start. And I really like how Ayano Koji, from his own self-admission, takes advantage of that to gain her trust. If you remember back to the ancient days of this channel, I actually did a review of the first season of Classroom of the Elite when I first watched it, and I kind of had some criticisms for how Ayano Koji is like, he sees everybody else as tools. But now I realize, as a grown man, that is just an inherent part of his character and like the development of the story. Like eventually that'll break away to a certain extent. But like, of course that's how he sees people. Of course it is. Like that, it was implied the entire time. Classroom of the Elite is honestly impressive because it has so much going for it in the sense that like a lot of really interesting characters, mysteries happening all the time and they're getting unraveled. Even not just on Ayano Koji's side, but also people investigating into what Ayano Koji was doing as the mastermind. Like just having a character like that as the protagonist where he's the one who's like from the background fucking with other people. Like it's someone who doesn't want to stand out, but like is actually super fucking smart and understands people and can back up his smack talk or whatever, his indifferent talk. It's just, I really like the whole dynamics that play around that and like how he approaches his relationships with different people depending on the value he sees in them. And I even like the addition of like Sato, who I think is adorable. The little study group that they had, I think is just kind of a cute little addition, but really the focus here is Kei, and of course there's Suzune and Kushida, of course, happening, which was good as well, I thought. Oh yeah, and like the way Kei's arc like rounds out at episode 12, where she's like being tortured, or was that episode 11 where she gets tortured the most? The way that her like arc and development alongside Ayano Koji rounds out, really fucking solid. So I just really like the focus on her and the development throughout, even though it's like kind of here and there, right? Like, because, I mean, the paper shuffle is a bit of an oddball. Felt a little bit out of place in this arc, or in this season, but, you know, like, overall, that was the moment where, like, Kushida and Suzune were going at it, but that was a little less Kei and a little more Suzune. Woo! That was badass. But the Classroom of the Elite, again, this is what I was about to get at, but it's so impressive because it's like you get kind of into it. It really gives you like just enough to like get you into it. And then you like there's like this one event, right? Like around the middle of the season that happens where that kind of like sets off this whole like a lot of change, at least in the perception of Ayano Koji. And it's like, oh man, now people are gonna like. Nobody knew he was as cool as he was until this happened, like this awesome event. And then you like go back to the actual event and it was literally a 400-meter dash. Literally all he did was compete with the student council president in a 400-meter dash or whatever it was. Which is impressive, sure, in the Classroom of the Elite. But also, it's a track event. It wasn't actually that cool. But yeah, like, then, like, Ayano Koji's dad came back for, like, 2 seconds. Ayano Koji was like, fuck you, dad. I'm staying in school. I'm supposed to stay in school and not do drugs. And the dad was like, fuck you, son. I'm going back to the white room. It was interesting to have, like, Ayano Koji's motivations pulled out from under him, but, man, you can't really claim that after episode 12, can you? That man went insano style, and quick. Classroom of the Elite has a very unique place in the anime scene because it has fight scenes, but they're hand-to-hand combat scenes, and they're actually really well done. Like, That scene where Ayano Koji fought against those 3 guys in Ryuen's little clique, that was tough. That was tough as hell. That was Insano style. Like, Ayano Koji went fucking Insano style, and it was awesome. So, because there's not a lot of moments where you get to see him exert effort. And even, you could claim that, like, even in that fight against Ryuen, he didn't, right? And that's what makes him, like, so interesting, because, like, maybe, like, at what point is he going to? And then, you know, we've got season 3 announced next year. It's just really good. Like, I really like Classroom of the Elite. It was definitely one of the strongest seasonal shows this season. It does, again, it kind of does help that it's a sequel, but yeah, now that the ball's rolling, Classroom of the Elite's really killing it. And I think the dynamic that Kei has with Ayano Koji is delightful. Even though, like, he is like, she totally trusts me now. Loser. Fucking slut. You just got pranked. It was just really solid. And, like, Ryuen, like, his addition to the story, I thought was good and worthwhile. And even, like, him being, like, at the end, like, him and Ayano Koji talking, where he's like, I'm gonna get Kushida the fuck out of here. I'm gonna kick that bitch to the curb. And he's like, good luck. There is a lot of good stuff about Classroom of the Elite, but you have to be willing to throw yourself into it, right? Because if you're not you're gonna be lost. So yeah, but I really liked this season, and I think next season might even be better. So I am going to find out soon and not wait for the anime. But yeah, good overall, pretty good season. I mean, there's some good stuff. There was some bad stuff. I think I actually will, since Chainsaw Man's only gonna be 12 episodes, I'll probably talk about it for like a minute in the next roundup. But I'm gonna spend most of my time not talking about it. So see you guys in the fall roundup. I've done 4 of these now, so I'm on a next I've done a full year of anime, sort of. I feel like since I only did 10 in the fall roundup, I missed out a little bit, but we'll get some more this fall. A lot of shows going wacko style in the fall season. Fuck. I will include Mob Psycho. Not My Hero. I'm not including My Hero, but I will include Mob Psycho, so.